Louise here for Lawnfawn today, and for today's project I'm going to be making a see-through window slider card, which I just thought would be a really fun idea since in this Very Happy Holidays stamp set that I'm going to be using there is a little skating polar bear that has a front and a back image, so I thought that doing a window card with this particular stamp set would be super fun. I'm also going to be using the stitched scalloped circle stackables dies as well as the slide on over dies. I'm also going to be using the brand new Perfectly Plaid Chill paper pad. This has some really fun designs in it. I love all of the plaid paper pads that Lawnfawn comes out with. These colours in this one though are just so super fun. They work so well together. So I'm going to be using that as my colour scheme and also as my background today. So to begin, I've just cut down this piece of pattern paper down to the size I need, and I've also cut down a white card base, and I'm going to start die cutting. So I've first just gotten this piece here that measures 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/8, and I've just gone ahead and ran through the second largest die in this die set through, and now I'm going to cut through also my card base. So I'm just lining back up this scalloped circle here, and I'm just making sure that it goes the right way just in case it doesn't line up at the end, so I did want to make sure that it was down properly. Then I'm just holding down that positive piece there onto the white card base where I know it needs to be cut from, and I'm just going to hold that piece down with my fingers, and then with my other hand I'm going to maneuver this little scalloped circle around a little bit just to fit it into place. You'll sort of feel it fit into place. Then I'm going to tape that down and run that through my Big Shot, making sure that I open up the card so it doesn't cut through both layers, that it just cuts through the front of the card, and that worked out perfectly. And then when you go ahead and lay over the patterned paper piece that we cut before, you'll see that it lines up absolutely perfectly with the correct spacing around all the sides. Now that my card base and panel has all been done, it's time to stamp and colour my images. So I'm using the Lawnfawn Jet Black ink, and I'm just going to stamp down all of my little pieces that I need. I love this ink, it's Copic friendly, and it's super black, so it works really well for Copic colouring, which is awesome. And I'm just using some white cardstock, and I'm cutting and I'm stamping down all of my images that I need to use. So I'm just stamping the back of this little panda and also the front, and then 3 of the little ice block slab things, and I'm going to stamp that down. And I'm just using my Shammy to clean in between each time that I stamp, just so I get a nice clean on my stamps. So now I'm going to use my Copic markers to colour in these polar bears, and these polar bears are so super easy to colour in since they only require very few colours. So I'm first starting off with some cool greys to colour in my panda. So I'm starting off with C1 as my darkest and just going in where I think the darkest areas would be. Then I'm going in with my C0, and I'm just sort of blending that C1 out just a little bit. And then I'm going in with my final colour of C00 and just blending that out even further. And originally I was going to colour in the whole polar bear with the C00, but I decided against it and brung in the 0, which is the colourless blender, and I'm just going to blend out this grey into white. Just I felt like that was a little bit more realistic. Then I'm going ahead and I'm using some BG markers to colour in his little ice skating boots here. So I'm using BG49 as my darkest, BG23 as my midtone, and BG11 to blend that all together as my lightest. So I just work from dark to light since I find it a little bit faster, and I do get a really good blend with the colours I'm using since I know that they work well together. Then I'm going ahead and using some yellows to colour in his scarf. I am following the colour scheme of the pattern paper as well, so everything matches. I'm using YR23 as my darkest, Y19 as my midtone, and then Y13 as my lightest marker, and I'm just blending that all together. And then for the very last pieces, these are the ice pieces. I'm colouring these in with some really light blue colours. So I'm first using B01 and just adding a very minimal amount around the edges of the ice, and then I'm going to use the B000 to blend that B01 out even further, so that is my midtone. And then once that's blended out a little bit, I'm using the B0000 to blend that all out together, and I'm following the same thing as I did with the polar bears. I'm not blending out that lightest blue into the whole image. I'm going to come in with my 0 marker and fade that blue out into white, just so it appears a little bit more realistic. Now I'm using the coordinating dies and cutting all of my images out, and here they are all cut out. I love the little white edge that they give. It's super fun, and it makes lining up that front and back polar bear image there super easy. Now I'm going to assemble my window slider. So I first need a piece of acetate because that's what's going to sort of house the little sliding polar bear, and also I just wanted that so you would be able to see through into the middle of the card or into the inside of the card, and so if you use pattern paper or anything there, that you wouldn't be able to see through it, so it wouldn't really be a window. So I decided to use a piece of acetate. So I'm just lining up sort of my images where they're going to go, and then I'm just lining up the smallest straight slider piece from the slide on over dies, and I'm lining that up onto the acetate. So then I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot machine, and then I can adhere down this acetate piece with the little slider panel open in there. So I've just added some Scor-tape around the entire scalloped circle piece there, and then adhered my acetate over top, and you can see that there's a little opening for the sliding polar bear. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere down my pattern paper panel here. So I'm just adding adhesive onto the back and lining that up over the white card base, and now I can go ahead and assemble my slider. So I'm first placing the little back of the polar bear on the inside of the card, making sure that the non-coloured piece is facing towards the outside of the card, and then I've added a tiny piece of Scor-tape onto the polar bear. Then I've added this little slider piece here on top. This is just some plastic, and then I've added another piece of Scor-tape on top and added my front panda in front, and you can see there that he slides back and forth, and you can see that on the front and on the inside of the card. I just thought that was a really fun addition, especially to have a little window there, because I am taking advantage of the mirrored image in the set. Then I just adhered down some of the ice at the bottom of the card, just with some flat adhesive, and I wasn't really sure that I liked seeing the adhesive on the inside of the card. So I decided to just cut 3 more pieces of ice from just the plain die cut. I didn't stamp it or anything like that. I just cut it out 3 times, flipped it over and adhered it down so it would be adhered on the inside of the card, and I think it looks pretty good. You can see where they overlap and things like that, but I definitely think it's better than the adhesive showing. So now I'm working on the little scalloped circle for the inside of the card, so when the card is like flat and not opened, you can see the colour on the inside. I just think that will look really fun. So I'm using some cracked pistachio, peacock feathers and evergreen bow ink to sort of go ombre, distress inking on this piece here, and you could definitely use the piece that was left over from die cutting the card base, but I messed up on the first try, so I just had to use a spare piece of paper, and then once that was all distress inked on there, I just spritzed it with some water. Then to adhere it onto my card, I just laid that piece upside down into the little crevice of that window there, and then placed the back of the card base on top so it would line up perfectly. Now I need to work on my sentiment, so I'm just using my MISTI, placing the straight sentiment at the bottom of the MISTI so I know that it's going to line up perfectly at the bottom of this peacock coloured cardstock here. This peacock cardstock matched perfectly with the tealy sort of colour in the pattern paper, so that's why I decided to use it as well. Then I just white heat embossed the "May Your Days Be Berry and Bright" sentiment on there and cut that down into a strip and adhered it on with some foam tape. So that finishes up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed. I really loved this little sliding polar bear within sort of like a window card. I just think that's a really fun idea, and it definitely makes the most out of your mirrored image stamp sets that you may have around. So thank you so much for watching today. All of the supplies will be listed down below and also at the blog post, and I will catch you all next time.